For us to say, see ya.
Call the meeting to order. Let the record show that this is a regular city council meeting held on Monday, November 16th. All members of council are present with the exception of Councilmember Hersey. The press has been duly notified. Would everyone please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence. And if you would, keep those people in Paris and France and around the world in your prayers tonight. Thank you. Item number 1 on the agenda is public comments. Are there any public comments? Do we have a sign-in sheet for public comments? I don't have it.
Thank you.
Do we have the timer for public comments? Can we display it so that the citizens see it? First person on the agenda is Michael Wegner.
Michael Wegner, 935 Angelica Lane in Tega. In reviewing the exhaustive 32-page effort by the current City Council to repeal in its entirety the law enforcement section, I was pleased that you chose to generously retain your commitment to protected expression pursuant to the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. I feel it's unfortunate that your collective respect for the Second Amendment is so notably absent. It seems that the personal beliefs of some of the City Council members are interfering with the simple confirmation of those protected rights. For example, when Mayor George Shepard stated at the Mayor's Forum that he would not support a clear exemption to TKK's total and complete ban on the discharge of firearms in city limits, even for lawful self-defense, because do you know how close together the houses are here? A similar failure to respect or even comprehend the issue of the right of self-defense that all citizens have here is your laughably unworkable venomous reptile permit. Aside from a false assertion that under South Carolina state law, everyone is not already free to keep themselves free from deadly animal threats, there's an attempt inside to do so to limit who and where and when you can do it. Another 2 pages of this nonsense, but I'd like to call your attention to a specific portion, as you are now attempting to correct this document in its entirety. Can anyone explain who thinks it is the most responsible course of action to prohibit from legal usage a shotgun or a handgun and insist on only the use of a rifle, a tool almost exclusively designed for long-range use? That would seem totally at odds with Mayor Shepard's expressed concern for the distance between homes here in Tega, and in this instance, I would actually share that concern. But reading further, we see that City Council has furthermore demonstrated a disdain and lack of understanding of basic firearms discharge. You'll read that the use of rat shot in the smallest of shotgun shell projectiles is also prohibited. It is commonly called snake shot, and for very good reason. It's a cloud of near powder-like dust that completely exhausts its energy, and thus the ability to do harm past a few yards. Why is this specifically prohibited when it's universally known to be the most safe and responsible choice? Item 9 of 10 different items on the requirements for this application is to list a person's special qualifications as to the ability and expertise in handling firearms, if only the same was required of those who have endeavored to enact foolhardy limitations on their use. In conclusion, I see that the City Council has now decided to enact the identical provisions that York County has for as far as animal control ordinances. Again, it's my request that you also enact that body's sensible respect for the right to defend life, and to include, as they have, an exemption for lawful self-defense in regards to discharge of a firearm. Your previous effort, in which you specifically enumerated that law enforcement officers may discharge their firearms, when you didn't have that before, was notably one-sided and absent in its respect also for the rights of those that they serve, to act in the same responsible and safe fashion. But somehow the City Council feels they threw us a bone, and they wrote into their ordinances that the peasantry may still carry firearms in their homes and on their private property. That's a total waste of verbiage in the free South Carolina, if there ever was one.
Thank you very much for your comments. Second person, Joe Soprano.
Good evening, Mayor Shepherd and council. My name is Joe Soprano. I live in 11150 Scullers Run. At the last the forum for the council members who are running for council, the subject of carts, golf carts, seemed to be a unanimous effort by everyone up there to encourage people to go out and buy carts. I have something that I had received from, I'm not sure where I got it, but it concerns the rules and regulations of carts around town. I don't know if every citizen got one of these, but I think it's very important that everyone does get a copy of this. And my first question would be, are these state laws, are they county laws, or are they City of TGK laws? The second part would be, then if they are TGK laws, then I'm going to say that the police department of TGK should be enforcing these. So I have heard from different citizens that are walking on the trails that the carts are coming up behind them, beeping their horns for them to get out of the way. I think it's supposed to be the other way around. I mean, I'm not sure how that reads here, but we have many carts. We need some guidance as far as laws and who is enforcing the laws, because obviously people are being upset by these carts coming in behind them, beeping them. And of course, there's always the age limitation for drivers, which I can tell you right now, it's not being upheld or enforced. And then, of course, driving at night with, even though they have lights on their carts, they're still driving after sundown. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank
Would
you,
you
Joe.
give Charlie a copy of that so we can see where that actually came from, if you wouldn't mind? It's us. Okay.
All these then are city laws,
Yes.
they're state laws.
State laws.
State laws.
They're state laws, Joe.
They're state law.
Yes.
That mean that our state laws are enforceable by our city police?
Yes.
Thank you.
Third person is Frank McCullum.
Thank you. My name is Frank McCollum. I live at 7004 TGK Drive. I'd like to ask just overall that we stop trying to ban everything. Part of the reason we moved to TGK in 2006 was because of the way that it was then, and it seems like there's been a very concerted effort since that time to try to turn it into something it's not. I feel like a lot of laws that have been passed are better suited for homeowners associations rather than a city that, instead of fining people, can potentially take away their freedom and put them in jail. In the proposed ban on box trucks, I think that interferes directly with our ability to live and work in TGK. It also impacts 3 of our 12 neighbors that are in our direct neighborhood that drive their work vans home from work. It also seems like it's very broadly worded to include potentially U-Hauls. If you were moving your daughter out to college, say, you would have to get city permission to bring the U-Haul in and load it up with whatever her items are to get her out of town, which seems like a broad overreach. So I'd like to ask that you vote against that. The tow truck language in the same proposal also seems very broad. It seems like it would potentially open the tow truck driver who was a good Samaritan that stopped to help someone that was broken down, open him up to a potential 30 days in jail and $500 fine because he was not solicited by the police department to come to that accident. That seems to be not very business friendly either. And then finally, the additional parking ban that disallows parking on non-permitted driveways. It just wasn't clear to me what is a permitted driveway, how do you get a permit? Is the grassy knoll in front of the police station, as an example, a permitted driveway? It currently has personal vehicles from officers that are on duty parked there. And then my final question is, how are the proposals brought about? Where did these come from? It seems very oddly timed to me that the box truck ban proposals come up just a few months after we purchased a box truck, given we've had several disagreements over the boat parking permit, which was also brought up just a few months after we initially had some interaction with the city on a boat permit parking issue. And since I have a few minutes left, I think in general TUK tends to be fairly business unfriendly, and I think that's something that we should change. And I know that we've talked about it before, but I have a business in Charlotte, and these 3 pages are what are required to figure out what I owe each year, and it's $350. The same business in TUK requires 50 pages, and it's $3,636 for the exact same business to register to do business here in TUK, and I just think some of that deserves some comparison and review. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Frank. Next is Dee Dee Davis.
Hello, everyone. I am the owner of the business that used to be the city permit office, and I saw that in Article 2, Operation of Vehicles, Section 50-99, they added box trucks to this ordinance. And I thought that was really interesting because I have a box truck. And I do realize that it does exclude the commercial use of that, but, and I'm gonna put capital letters on the BUT, because of where I'm located, I always get, held to the standard of the residential community, and I try to be a good, steward of that property. But in capital letters, if this passes, this will affect me, even though you say it doesn't, because if someone complains about it, then the police show up at my doorstep saying that I have to move things. That has happened already twice. So I'm totally against this ordinance, and I hope that my council members support me in saying no to this issue. It is not business friendly. It's not business friendly for the other residents that this is going to affect. They don't even know this is happening. Where did this come from? I have not heard about it until just this last week. I don't know what's going on here, but this has to stop. This is not business friendly. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments? There being none, closed public comments. Item number 2 on the agenda is the approval of minutes. Council, you were sent the minutes for the regular city council meeting on October 19th, 2015. Are there any questions or deletions to those minutes? Hearing none, the minutes stand approved. Item number 3 on the agenda is special presentations by the police department, and that's Chief Steve Parker.
Yes, I'd like to call up Richie Christopher from the Fort Mill Times. If you would come on up here. And Officer Burns, Sergeant Burns, I'm sorry. We received a phone call or an email from the Fort Mill Times. They had informed us about a special presentation that they wanted to do in reference to Sergeant Burns and the work that he's been doing over the last year. So I just wanted to turn it over to Richie and let him say a few words, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you.
On behalf of the Fort Mill Times and all the readers, and from Indian Land to TUK, you have been awarded Best Police Officer for this year. Thank you for your service. Thank you both.
I'll just say a quick word. The readers got it right. There is no question about it. The readers got it right. His work from National Night Out to the schools to constant. I get emails constantly just saying what a great officer he is, how personable he is, what he does. He's always going above and beyond. He's one of those people at work that whenever he's working, I can close my eyes and know that this city's safe and that the right things are being done. And so I just wanted to, again, congratulate him. So, good job.
Thank you, Major.
Congratulations.
Enjoy your dinner.
Thank you.
I hope you're buying dinner for your mom. Item number 3B on the agenda is the Arbor Day proclamation. Whereas the city of TEK celebrates 25 years as a Tree City, USA, that recognizes the value of trees to the community and has adopted and enacted celebrating the first Friday in December as Arbor Day. And whereas trees continue to the aesthetic of our community and, when properly cared for, increase property values and beautify our neighborhoods. And whereas trees enhance the livability of our city through the filtering of stormwater and air pollutants. And whereas the purpose of the proclamation on this day throughout the state of South Carolina is to encourage planting trees and to follow the actions of J. Sterling Morton in 1872. Now therefore, we, the mayor and the council of the city of TEK, do hereby proclaim Friday, December 4th, 2015 as Arbor Day in TEK, South Carolina, and urge all residents of the city to observe Arbor Day by attending the Arbor Day ceremony on Friday, December 4th, 2015 at 1 p.m. at the City Hall Gardens. Item number 4 on the agenda is the unfinished reading of ordinance to amend Ordinance 482 in regards to utilities. City Manager Charlie Funderburk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Tonight, we have before you a second reading, or consideration of a second reading of ordinance to amend Ordinance 482 in regards to utilities. Based on questions arising from several citizens after first read, and in an effort to further clarify the intent of the change being made in Section 2, Paragraph G, we've modified the language slightly to even further to make sure that it's 100% clear, as the intent of this section has not changed, only further clarified. And after speaking with the city attorney, you can still move forward with second read if you choose to tonight. And for the record, that paragraph, if adopted by council, would read, "Is each property owner's responsibility to maintain their sewer lateral from the building to their property line or to the connection with the public sewer main if the public sewer main is on their property. All costs and expenses incident to the installation, connection, repair, and maintenance of the building sewer shall be responsible of the property owner. For such purposes, the property owner is granted permission to excavate in the public right-of-way, subject to the City of TEK's regulations and under the direction of the Utilities Director." And we would ask for council's favorable consideration at this time.
Thank you, Charlie. Council, entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor and council, I motion to approve the second reading of an ordinance to amend Ordinance 482 in regards to utilities.
I have a motion by Ron Kirby. Do I have a second?
Second with discussion.
Second by Chris Lambrick Larson for discussion. Go ahead, Chris.
Charlie, this has been an issue that has come up, and I appreciate the clarification, but just to put it in a little simpler terms, is it correct that the homeowner is responsible for the waste line from their house to the connection or to the property line?
That is correct. If the sewer main actually runs on their property, they're responsible up to the connection point. If the sewer main is not on their property, they're only responsible up to the
To the
property
end of their
line.
property? Okay.
That's correct.
All right, so that makes it simple, anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ron? Jen? All right. To be 100% clear, I'm just going to reiterate
Understood.
what Chris has said. So the line comes from my house to the property line. That's all my responsibility is.
That's correct.
Anything past my property line is the city's responsibility.
If the sewer main is not on your property, that is correct.
Okay. So then the issue comes in where the sewer main is. If the sewer main is between my house and the end of my property line, who's responsible for it?
The city is responsible for the main. You're responsible for the line coming from your house all
To
the way
the
up to
main.
the point that it connects to the main.
Okay,
The city is responsible for the main.
okay. No council discussion? Call the question, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Item number 5 on the agenda is the approval of letter of credit for performance and labor. City Manager Charlie Funderburk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Sorry, we got off a little bit. At their regular meeting on November 9th, 2015, the Planning Commission approved the final plat for Lake Ridge Gardendale Phase 1, Pod B, Map 2, contingent upon the approval of letter of credit and performance labor and materials surety agreement by council. Included in your packet is a letter from the developer's engineer certifying certain improvements have been installed and includes an opinion of probable cost to complete the required infrastructure. The required improvements are to be bonded by a letter of credit in the amount of $95,103.13. The city engineer has submitted a letter approving of the amount of the LOC, and the city attorney has reviewed and approved the performance, labor, and materials surety agreement to accompany the LOC, and we would ask for council's favorable read at this time.
Council entertain a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the letter of credit in the amount of $95,103.13 and performance, labor, and materials surety agreement for the Gardendale Pod B, Map 2.
I have a motion by Chris Lambic Larson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Jennifer Stalford. Any council discussion? The only thing I would like to say is that the Planning Commission also approved the final plat of this Lake Ridge for this credit approval. Call the question, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Item number 5B on the agenda is the approval letter of credit. City Manager Charlie Funderburk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. As with the previous item, this one is, this LOC and performance labor and sureties, material surety agreement is for Gardendale Phase 2, Pod H, Map 3, Lake Ridge. They have, Planning Commission did approve the final plat for this on November 9th. The required improvements are to be bonded by the LOC in the amount of $154,200.38. And we would ask for council's favorable consideration at this time.
Thank you, Charlie. Council entertain a motion?
Mr. Mayor and council, I motion to approve the letter of credit in the amount of $154,200.38 and performance, labor, and material surety agreement for Gardendale Pod H, Map 3.
Motion by Ron Kirby. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Chris Lambic Larson. Any council discussion? There being none, call the question. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Unanimous. Item number 5C on the agenda is the introduction of the first reading of ordinance authorizing the issuance of water, work, and sewer revenue bonds not to exceed $6,757,377. City Manager Charlie Funderburk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. The ordinance before you tonight, as the mayor stated, is a revenue bond with the state revolving fund. This is the monies that we have been talking about since we acquired the system in the old Utilities Inc. system in 2014. This is sewer money loaned to the city at 2% interest. Approximately half of the $6.7 million is 20-year money. The other approximate half is 30-year money. The final loan agreement is still being finalized and will be an exhibit to this. Believe we, late this evening, pretty close to having that finalized as far as the exhibits that will go with this ordinance. Your city attorney, Mr. Sheedy, is finalizing those details with the SRF representatives. Nothing too out of the ordinary or crazy there. It's mostly boilerplate stuff, but the SRF representative was unavailable all last week for us to finish up, so worked that through today. So we would ask for council's favorable consideration of this, this much-needed ordinance so that we can proceed forward.
Thank you, Charlie. Council entertain a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the introduction and first reading of an ordinance authorizing the issuance of a waterworks and sewer revenue bond not to exceed $6,757,377 plus capitalized interest, if any, contingent upon the exhibits to ordinance being of form and substance suitable to the city and to approve U.S. Bank and trustee under the general bond ordinance.
Motion by Chris Lambic Larson, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ron Kirby. Any council discussion?
Yes.
Ron?
I'd just like to say so the public knows, this is nothing new. This was all disclosed and discussed from day one with our purchase, or acquiring the Carolina Waters, TK Water Service. Also, Charlie and your staff and professional counsel, I'd like to thank you for all the work you've done, because this has been quite a task for the revolving funds here. Thank you.
Charlie, I was wondering if the presentation that was made to update the community regarding how the funds would be spent, is that still available on the city website?
I'll have to double check. I would imagine it would be, but I'm not 100% certain. I'd have to find out and look. We can look into that more.
All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Chris?
Charlie, yes, I'd like to echo what Councilman Kirby said as well. Your staff has worked very hard on getting this thing complete and put it in front of us, and we do appreciate it. My question is, obviously, is this it's not just for clarification, I know where we're heading with it, but is this for a phase one, or is this complete?
This will be, there's 3 separate divisions, basically, of this. One, and 2 of them are more or less the same, but you've got, primarily it's for the repairs to the wastewater treatment plants, and the other part is for the collection system to reduce the I&I. At the completion of this, doesn't mean we're done with the system itself, but the overhaul that has been much needed will be complete.
All
Yes,
right, thank you so much.
Call the question. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Item number 5D on the agenda is the introduction of first reading of an ordinance to amend the city code of laws as it relates to law enforcement. City Manager Charlie Funderburk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. As a point of clarification, as this was discussed pretty heavily during our opening public comments, just want to explain to the public exactly what is before council this evening. When the council last amended Ordinance 77 in October of 2014, it was after all of our ordinances had been recodified with Municode. What we didn't realize at that point in time, and if council will recall, since that point in time, you have not amended ordinances, you have amended chapter and section of the code. By doing an amendment to Ordinance 77, basically what ended up happening was to Ordinance 70, your Ordinance 70 ended up going into Chapter 26. Now, prior to 2014, if you rewind the clock back to 2013, your Ordinance 70, once we had codified, had been split basically into 2 separate chapters of our Code of Laws. Part of it was in Chapter 26. The bulk of it, I would say, it was in Chapter 50. When we did an amendment to the ordinance instead of amending your Code of Laws, and that was completely our mistake on that. Basically, it put Chapter 26 into conflict with Chapter 50 because they put all of Ordinance 70 into Chapter 26. And if council will recall, the changes you did with the boats and things of that nature, it put the 2 in conflict. Now, Ordinance 70 amended that council did approve in October of 2014 is what we have been enforcing off of because that was a legal document approved by council. What the purpose of this is tonight, by repealing the Ordinance 70 amended and then reinstating, you're putting it back into the code the way it should have been done when you did the code, when you did the amendment in October of 2014. There's only 4 or 5 new, quote-unquote, new sections that council has not already approved, okay? Everything else council, either this council or many previous councils have already approved. The first one is in section 34-76. That's actually it was already in there. It was just in a different section, so that is not brand new. Section 46-1, that paragraph was in there. The only thing that we added here was instead of just or special events, we put it as or approved special events. So the word approved was added in there. in regards to display or consumption of beer, wine, or alcoholic beverage in public. Section 50-1, 50-95, and 50-99 all kind of go together. This is the box truck thing that was a topic of discussion earlier. Obviously, 50-1 is just a simple definition of box truck. 50-95, we've run into where people, obviously council's in a previous amendment had said that you have to park in a driveway. Not in your front yard, not in your rear yard, not in your side yards. Got to park in the driveway. What we've run across is people have put down temporary parking areas adjacent to their driveway with just putting gravel down in their yards, which is why we've tweaked that language to say in an approved permitted area by the city. Again, it was just clarifying 50-99. Well, I appreciate the comments that were made earlier. This was not directed at any one person or business, and there is an exception in the ordinance that does allow folks that are driving that as their mode of transportation, as part of their job or part of their business they own, and things of that nature. But again, it was a point of clarity because we're constantly, our law enforcement folks were constantly being called on it, getting a lot of complaints on it, not just one specific, but several throughout different areas of the city. Again, it was just for clarification. If council does not want to move forward with sections 50-1, 50-95, 50-99, or even 46-1, basically those last four there, that's completely up to council and whatever you folks would like to do. But the rest of it does need to be repealed and reinstated for the reasons that I stated previously, so that we can get what's online with Municode cleaned up and cleaned up quickly, so that it's not confusing to your residents. With that, I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to table the introduction of the first reading of an ordinance to amend the city's code of law as it relates to law enforcement.
I have a motion by Chris Lambic Larson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second for discussion.
Second by Jen Stalford for discussion. Go ahead, Jen.
I have quite a few questions. I know that the law portion was moved, but there was, it appears, some text added to it as well. Section 34-76, failure to stop on command of an officer. I noticed it was in previously section 26-22, as you had noted,
Correct.
but it did appear to include more clarity.
Chief, is that basically what we're doing
Yeah,
there?
there's more clarity in it, so.
Microphone. Thank you. And just stay up there, please, during the discussion.
Added more clarity so that we had a failure to stop on command of officer that was in there, but we added that for a suspect who has committed, is about to commit, or is going to commit a crime. So if we get a call for, say, I'd like to use an example, get a call, someone's reaching at door handles and they're trying to pull them up at several cars for breaking into car, but they don't make entry, we go to stop them, that they have to, by law, stop on our command because they're a suspect of a crime. And that is, there's a Supreme Court ruling that says that they do have to if they're a suspect for a crime.
So this is already a state law?
This law itself is not a state law, no ma'am.
Is it not a federal law?
There is a federal law, yes.
Right, okay.
Well, this is an ordinance.
This is an ordinance,
It's a city ordinance.
That's correct.
Our law,
yes.
right.
But federal law supersedes our law anyway.
Supersedes, right?
So part of this ordinance, we also state that we're exempt by federal and state law. We didn't list out what each one of those individual things are. So if we want to be in agreement with the whole ordinance where we say that we're exempt by federal and state law, why is this not part of that?
I want to intercede just a second. I think what the chief is referring to is probably a Supreme Court case.
Yes.
And
Not a law.
that's an interpretation of constitutional rights, and it's probably a search or seizure or something. It's not really a statute, so to speak. It's an interpretation of someone's constitutional rights. So if you want this to be the law in TGK, then I suggest you put it in your ordinance.
That's what we're doing. This is for
Okay,
an
that-
ordinance
that's-
right now.
That changes the
Yeah.
discussion.
So that's
Yeah,
why it's
I'm
being
sorry for the
tabled for discussion,
misunderstanding.
Okay.
Okay. And I would understand why you're bringing this one forth, but where are the other ones coming from? Who's bringing this forth? I mean, I don't believe planning commission.
Staff is. Staff is based on what our police officers have been basically dealing with in the field during calls of service. Just trying to get a clarification, trying to add some clarity to be able to respond when they do get that call, that request. Again, this is only coming from staff, and if council doesn't want to mess with the rest of this, that's absolutely fine. I mean, it's just to try to assist our officers with the calls that they get on a pretty frequent basis.
I don't think that the council doesn't want to act on it based on the way it's written. There's some concerns with council, so I think it should be discussed at another time.
Yeah, that's why we're tabling it, and we're gonna,
It's not lack of support.
right, yeah, and just clarify that, well, there's concerns. People are here, they're concerned, and I think it's the right thing to do.
Mr. Mayor, if I can ask a question, would council be okay with moving forward with everything except for these sections?
No.
Everything else has already been approved by council, other than these 5 sections. They were last approved October 2014.
I don't think it'd be appropriate based on what we just tabled. It wouldn't make sense we just table this item, or motion to table this item.
We could withdraw the table
Well,
and have it exclude these items.
do you want to review the whole thing?
Yes.
Do you want to review the whole ordinance again? Because that's pretty much what you're asking to do.
Right.
Yeah, well, that's why we're tabling it.
Yeah.
I did not see anywhere in there that it protected people with box trucks for commercial purposes. Perhaps it wasn't in what I received, but I didn't see any of that. So those who need to utilize these for their business or work purposes going to and from, and I'm just really confused with some of these items, why we're trying to restrict these things, in addition to the trailers. And it's really any size trailer when you look at the definition of a trailer. So this could be something stuck in someone's garage. I mean, I don't even see how we're gonna be able to enforce the parking pad situation.
Oh, yeah, well, that's always been an issue.
Are we gonna go around driving and looking at every gravel parking pad that exists already now and let them have, I don't know, look back in records to see if they required a permit, if they didn't need one before? Are we gonna grandfather these people?
This might warrant a discussion with council in a workshop.
Well, I think it's a discussion of council in a workshop. I also think it comes back to a public hearing.
Public hearing.
Now,
Definitely.
Jen's talking about the box trucks, and I guess I'm gonna jump in here, and you're all gonna laugh at me, but, display or consumption of beer, wine, or alcohol in public. So are you telling me I can't have a beer on my front porch? It's in public. That's not which is different than what this says.
Council has decided to table it, that's fine. We can workshop it. Whatever council wants to do.
I have a motion, I have a second, call the question, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Unanimous, it's tabled. Item number 6 on the agenda, city manager's report.
I have nothing for council at this time.
Item number 7 on the agenda, public comments. Are there any additional public comments? If you would, step to the microphone and state your name and address.
My name is Connie Feitz. I live at 837 Brooks Mill. I got sent an email tonight about handguns and weapons, and I being a vet, and there's this thing called the United States Constitution, the Second Amendment. I totally am for that, and any city that thinks that they can legislate handguns, taking them away from the citizens, needs to go where I lived for 47 years in Chicago and see what the result is. The only people left with handguns are people that are killing each other every day. So please, use some common sense. People like me, who have never, I had 2 speeding tickets when I was a kid. I don't deserve to be treated like a criminal and have my firearms or my right to take firearms, whether I have them or not, on somebody's whim because they happen to be some liberal from up north. And let me tell you, I hear a lot of it living in Illinois, that they want to do this, they want to do that. Next thing they want to do is take knives away from everybody. I mean, it gets silly. Let's go back to having some common sense. All you gentlemen are, and ladies are old enough to know that we do have a constitution, and let's abide by it, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? John, you know the drill. All right. You want me to rehearse you?
John Sherwood, I have a new address.
Oh, no.
10035 Teppa Place. How about that? TK,
Good
South
for you.
Carolina, 29708.
Welcome back, welcome back.
Digging it. Couple questions. The second reading part, I know we had some kind of a legal opinion. We could change the wording from one reading to another reading without it being a first reading again.
Right.
I'm a little unclear on that. So if we could just get some kind of clarity on the website or something, or,
Okay.
you know, at one of your manager meetings, minutes thing.
Okay.
On the website, that'd be cool. This first reading, I applaud you guys for tabling that. New business D. I think that's, when we say that there's 4 new things, and then there's 5 new things, is it 9 new things? We don't know. I mean, if it wasn't for Jennifer pointing out the one, we don't know that would be different as we parse this into 2 separate chapters or whatever. So as citizens, if we can understand that a little bit better, what we're doing, why we're doing it. I haven't read it. I don't have any idea what box trucks, milk trucks, ice cream trucks, whatever. But if we can have a better understanding, that would be cool. I think that it'd be very well received by the people in the city as well. And overall, if we can understand, I mean, I think some of the frustration is, you know, when it comes up from staff or when something happens in the city, the ordinances. Somebody mentioned before, like it was HOA or something. It really does feel like that. It feels like we do things, and I don't know what problems we're trying to solve. Like, why are we fixing things that the city, that the citizens don't perceive as a problem? I don't understand why we're trying to fix things all the time. Let's just try to live here and have some fun. I love this place. You know, let's just live here and stop trying to fix things that really necessarily aren't a problem, from my humble opinion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Any other public comments? There being none, close the public comments, go to council comments. Ron?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I'd like to congratulate David and Ryan on your upcoming being sworn in. You guys ran a good campaign, good job. And if I can be of any help, I'm as close as the telephone. And last of all, I'd like to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving and safe holiday.
Chris?
We've had some public comments tonight, and now I need some clarification. I mean, I don't know if this is the time to discuss this, but I'm gonna bring it out. I mean, did we ever say we're gonna take everyone's guns away? No. Is that anywhere posted in anything we've written or passed?
No.
No. How does these people think this? It amazes me. I've got guns. No one's come to take my guns away. But it's just because of the way it's been interpreted. So if we need to add more clarity to that, then I think we should. Because the second Constitution is intact, and it always will be intact, especially in this city. You know? But I know for a fact that we, or you, or staff has never, ever enforced the fact that we're going to take your guns away or your rights to use them in self-defense. So that's my public comment for tonight.
Thank you, Chris. Jen?
I actually was going to address that as well. Just take a look in Ordinance 77, Section 34-121. It clearly states there, and we have worked so long to get this clarified so that you see that, first of all, we can't supersede state law, and you have the right to protect yourself. And I also have guns, so.
Thank you.
Beautification meeting will be held on Thursday at 1:15 p.m. in the lower level meeting room at the Glennon Center. And I also would encourage everyone who thinks that we do not post agendas or its content of what will be covered to look at the city website. They're always posted. They're even redlined to make it easier for people to look at. And we are always available. All of our information's on the city website. And I do my best to get in touch with people immediately so they understand I really do care and I want to know what's going on, to hear from different perspectives. So, and I believe everyone up here feels the same way.
Thank you, Jen. I guess I'm going to go a little lighthearted. Echoing Ron's sentiment about Happy Thanksgiving, but also we've been able to contact the North Pole. The North Pole has delivered a mailbox, which will be displayed in City Hall. And we encourage all the children, young and old, to put a letter to Santa in that mailbox. And we will make sure it gets answered and gets sent back to you. So we encourage you to do that. That is going to be at the City Hall lobby starting on Monday, November 30th. And all letters received by December 11th will be answered. So we encourage you to send your letter, young or old. It doesn't matter how old you are or how young you are. Please send your letter. We would appreciate that. With that being said, I'll move on to item number 9, which is an executive session. Council, entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to enter into executive session to discuss pursuant to Section 34-4-70A2 to discuss contractual matters as it relates to utility contract.
I have a motion by Chris Lambic Larson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ron Kirby. Any council discussion? There being none, call the question. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. We're in executive session.